hospital, and we've the Munster University Technology College. So it's a busy town. We get a lot of visitors, a lot of tourists would stop between Dingle, doing the Dingle Peninsula and the Kerry. So it's a busy town, and a lot of people work here and might commute a little bit outside the town and come into work with all of the business that goes on here. So feel free to ask questions at any stage. I mightn't be able to answer them, but I'll try my best. So we're just standing, actually I'll bring you down here so you can see the top of the building. It now houses the Kerry County Museum, and I'd highly recommend a visit. I think it's only €5, but it's well worth it. They have an amazing exhibition on Tom Green and Roger Casey, and you could actually ease away 2 hours in there looking around. It's very well done. But the building was built from local sandstone and a little bit of limestone, and it was actually quarried out near Lisbon, where Denny Street. We'll talk about that later. So the Denny family owned all of this land as well as the town park. Now 32 acres. At one time it would have been 50. And they owned it, and they planted, during 17th century and 18th century, they planted most of the trees, the large trees you can see here. And this tree here is meant to be the oldest tree in the town park. So the Dennys planted it and used it as a park, but they left it open to the public of Tralee so that people could come in and wander in and out. But in early 1900s, no, it was the late 1800s, they sold it, and they had offered it to Tralee Town Commission, as it was then called, Tralee Town Council. And Tralee Town Council said, no, we don't want that. So anyway, this guy called Henry Clements Finnerty bought the town park, and he put up all the railings you can see around here, and he locked the gates. So he put gates around, and he had 2 gate lodges. One, he was a very quiet small town and was suffering like a lot of small towns in Ireland at the time. But anyway, a group of people got together and they met in a bar downtown, Hartley's Bar. It's called something else now, and they wanted to come up with an idea to bring the diaspora back to Tralee, back to Kerry. So someone they said, oh look, what about the Rose of Tralee song? Can we use that anyway? So they decided to do the Rose of Tralee competition. So the spire and this section here took another 10 years after the church was opened to actually build on. Beautiful church, very busy. A lot of beautiful stained glass windows. So I'll take a few minutes here if you want to go in and just have a look. There's a beautiful stained glass window at the very back, and there's also a new stained glass window over to the right that was designed by a Tom Denny, who was a great grandson of the Dennys that lived here. So he was commissioned to do it. Also on the other side here you have the convent, which was built after the church, by the same contractor, the same designer, and that houses the Presentation Convent School and the Presentation Nuns, and the primary school is still in there, and it's still, as you can see, it's still operational. And just good few years to build. Again, it's made out of limestone in the Gothic Revival style. It was designed by a famous architect called William Victorius Morrison, and he designed quite a lot of buildings all over Europe. He was quite famous, but I don't know what he ended up doing down in Tralee, building a beautiful courthouse, but anyway. And it's just stunning. So you can see the Greek Revival style in the pillars and the scrolls at the top of them. But it's still used today as a courthouse. And they are trying to they're hoping to build a new courthouse in Tralee because it actually has no disability access. So if someone needs to appear in court, they need to be taken in through the holding cells at the back, which I'm sure isn't very pleasant. So there is, I think, planning in our area.
No, the grounds are started.
Yeah, they started, yeah. And that was fairly controversial. So years that would have been quite wealthy coming to Ireland. She would have been in some way related to most of the buildings that were the architecturally historical buildings that were built in Ireland at that time. So I have great respect for Queen Victoria. Yeah, well, because of the money she invested, Ireland would have died, I think, pretty much for her. Yeah, yeah. Because she just, you know, now there was an awful lot of British here, there was an awful lot of unrest, there was an awful lot of that. The sandstone brick and the door, all those door frames would be original. The bottom, the middle windows would be the original windows around the house. Before the conservation laws, the top windows would have been changed, as you can see. Yeah, and then these were changed, but they would have had to conform to the planning. And also at one time the door was on this side. And back in the 1901 census, there was a man in the to stand still. It also houses, it used to house the Denny family Bible, which was donated to the church by the Denny family. One of the oldest English family Bibles in the world, and it was they recently given to the museum, so it's been redone. That's the word I'm looking for. Renovated. And in the morning, and they'd arrive here, and they would be walking the big market lane, is the lane we'd be walking down in a minute. There used to be a pie shop there called Mrs. Young, and she was known all over Kerry for her pies. And also another thing was the pubs. They used to have what they called a market license. There's probably very few left. So that the children would be able to maybe get out of the area and get jobs and live a better life. So that was the way the Presentation Sisters, which they actually admired for. So
living there, they sleep there.
They would have slept in there, they would have lived in there, they would have taught the kids in there. But that's what they did. That's why I would admire the Presentation Sisters, because they did it everywhere. They didn't care about them. Down here would have been in one of these houses and would have served the pies from the door, pretty much. Well, yeah, those ones are. This is being used, and there's a cop early here, yeah. Because of the amount, and she probably lived back there with the amount, so she must have been a tough old nut. But she had a stall here for 70 years, so she was probably working on the stall when she was about 8. But to live that long back then wouldn't have been healthy. So this would have been a very busy area. And you've also heard of the Sam Maguire at Croke Park. Well, Sam Maguire had cousins living in Hogan's house just across the road. We could walk over, you can see the plaque. Yeah, so I always say that you can just imagine Sam Maguire playing football out here with his cousins. You can walk over and see it. So for anybody who wants to trade, and Christy wasn't particularly educated well, and they say that he had dyslexia and a few other issues like that. But he anyway became a messenger boy for a local merchant when he was quite young. He was only something like 10 or 12. But anyway, his dream was to become a singer and to sing songs. And he used to go around the town in his little bike with the messenger basket, and he used to be singing. And one of the first songs he wrote was a beautiful song called Messenger. Edward Denny, so where the bank is up at the corner, Edward, my lovely Edward I was talking about earlier, that's where he lived, in a big castle. And in the 1800s, there was a lot of changes going on in Ireland, and castles were a bit untrendy, and people were building big new houses, because the labour was there to do it, the skills were there to do it, and the supplies were there to build. So Edward Denny anyway decided around the 1920 something that he was going to knock down his castle, and I think he did that about 1823, and in 1826 he built Denny Street, or the start of it was built. So he used all the stone obviously from the castle, so this limestone here would be part of what was used, but he built these houses and all of them had basements, so which would have been unusual in Ireland at the time, so they would have had basements. So they would have been the people that would have lived, and it's actually still similar to this day. You would have had the banks on this street, the solicitors on the street, the dentists, the opticians, anybody that would have money and that would look after people. So it would be kind of the financial district. So